I'm Cheryl Makoviak. I'm a soil scientist with the University of Florida over at the North Florida Research and Education Center in Quincy, Florida. We just had a field day and we were going over one of our integrated systems where we have grazing of winter cover crops. Most of the land and row crops in this area are not using cover crops, so we would like to see if we can integrate cattle with those row crops. And this is the first year of our trial. We started with cotton and we're using a wheat or an oat and a rye mix, and we're just showing some initial things that we're seeing in the system. Eventually, if we can get those cover crops raised in the winter time and get some adoption by the growers, maybe we can move on to an even more aggressive system, which is a perenniated system or sod-based crop rotation, where we grow perennial grass for 2 years and then convert over to the traditional row crops. That really builds up our soil health and organic matter.
My name is Marcelo Valal. I'm the Forage Extension Specialist with the University of Florida. And here we have an experiment with different grazing intensities and fertilization levels in an integrated crop livestock system. To get the most of the benefits of integrated systems, we need to be very careful about grazing management. Here, I'm standing on an overgrazed pasture. This is a 2-week regrowth. And what we can see here is that there is a lot of bare ground and there is lots of weeds coming. So this is a big problem from several aspects. We're exposing our soil to a greater extent. We're limiting plant production, which limits root production, which will limit the organic matter accumulation in the soil. And that's where the most of the benefit comes from in the systems. From the animal perspective, we're forcing the animal to graze down to the ground, a pasture that's shorter, so we're limiting intake and also offering the animal more stems and more dead material, which reduces the quality of intake. Behind me is a moderate grazing with 30 pounds of nitrogen. It's not the ideal amount of nitrogen, probably looking into putting a little more here. There's a big difference between 30 and 60 pounds of nitrogen we put here. But at least this situation, we're covering more the ground, we have a better forage for the animals, and this will result in much better benefits for the crop whenever it comes into rotation.
My name is Esteban Rios. I am an assistant professor in forage breeding and genetics at the University of Florida in Gainesville. We are here in Mariana today showing some of the work that we are doing, trying to incorporate alfalfa into a Bermuda grass system. So in this study, particularly here in Mariana and in Gainesville, we are testing 2 different alfalfa varieties. One is Bulldog 805, a recommended variety for our region, and the other one is a potential release that we will do in the next couple of years for alfalfa from our breeding program at UF. Basically what we are trying to look at is different stubble heights, 2, 4 and 6 inches of cutting height in order to test persistence of alfalfa over time, and also looking at different resting periods, simulating what would be for rotational grazing. So we have treatments that will be 2, 4 and 6 weeks apart of resting period between cuts. So we are estimating that we will basically be doing between 4 and 8 cuts per year based on the treatment. And we are looking at biomass production, quality of the forage, as well as persistence of the alfalfa over time.
I'm José Dubé, forage agronomist here at UF as an FREC, and I want to give just a snapshot of what you're doing here. This is a long-term trial. We are starting the 5th year now in 2019, and we are trying to replace nitrogen fertilizer by integrating forage legumes into livestock systems. The take-home message that you have here for you is that after 4 years of data, we're able to produce more livestock gain when we integrated legumes into the systems compared to nitrogen fertilization. We are able to replace 200 pounds of nitrogen fertilization per year for only 30 pounds of nitrogen per year. And the magic is that legumes can capture nitrogen from the air and fix to the ground and transfer to the associated grass. So in the summer, we have strips of perennial peanut, Ecoturf perennial peanut, and Argentine Bahia grass. And in the winter, we have clovers, crimson red and bulk clover, a mix of clovers, and also rye and oats. And they're also adding nitrogen in the system. So with that combination, we are able to provide great livestock gains and we're able actually to produce more gains than in fertilizer system, or at least the same. So that's a big difference, because nitrogen fertilizers are expensive, and they also may increase the nitrates in the groundwater, which is another important aspect here in North Florida.
Chris Breif, beef cattle and forage economist at the University of Florida. Just talking about this perennial peanut Bahia grass system with the unfertilized Bahia treatment as well as the fertilized N treatment. After 4 years, we've been able to determine so far that our Bahia grass perennial peanut with only 30 pounds of nitrogen is able to economically support stocker steers grazing throughout the summer for a very economical returns, and during the winter time our perennial peanut with Bahia grass as well as the unfertilized Bahia grass system are able to economically graze cool season stocker steers in terms of total economics and be very productive forage systems.
I'm Mark Malden. I'm the Livestock and Natural Resources Agent in Washington County. Today we're talking about controlling woody brush, whether it be in your fence rows or anywhere on the farm, and particularly woody brush control in these areas of disturbed soil. We have a lot of that kind of ground after the storm, where we've had to push and clean up and root rake and things of that nature. It presents a wide array of challenges for us in terms of brush control. Foliar applications tend to be the most appealing to producers. What producers want to try first is spraying the leaves. If you have woody brush like this that still has adequate leaf area, that's a possibility. If you have highly disturbed sites or the plants are broken off, you don't have leaf area, foliar applications are going to prove to be very, very difficult. There's a bunch of other techniques we can look at for controlling woody brush beyond a foliar application. You have to have adequate leaf area for those to work. One other thing we pointed out today, it's very important to note, these areas of disturbed ground, lots of moisture, lots of sunlight hitting the ground in places it didn't used to, you will have weed problems in these disturbed areas. You need to be formulating a plan on how you're going to deal with managing the weeds in these disturbed areas. Doing nothing is not going to be a good option.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Di Lorenzo. I'm an associate professor at the North Florida Research and Education Center, and today we're showcasing some of the latest technology that is available for precision cattle feeding. This unit that I have by me is called the Super Smart Feed, and it's designed by C-Log Incorporated in South Dakota. It's the second prototype of its kind. The first one is at Oklahoma State University, and basically is designed to deliver precision supplementation to cattle that can be housed all together in one pasture. Based on radio frequency identification, the unit can be programmed so that a group of cattle can be fed either different feeds or different amounts of the same feed, or just not supplement at all to a group and supplement to another one. That way it can simplify management, and it can also, from a research standpoint, give us a tool to conduct research related to frequency and amount of supplementation. The way this unit works is it has a bin that holds 2.5 tons of feed, and when the animals are fitted with the radio frequency identification tag, they will approach the eye, and the sensor here, and see, is going to drop a certain amount of feed. This works very well with pelleted feed, dry feed for the most part.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Callan Waters with the UF-IFAS Extension, Holmes County. I'm going to talk to you today just briefly about nutrient prioritization in the mature beef cow. So one of the things that's really important to understand is really kind of the slots that she feels as she takes that nutrient in, and when you really kind of get a grasp of that, you understand why maybe as cattle producers it's a struggle to get our cows to rebreed. So when we look at nutrient prioritization, the first thing that we have is just kind of some basal energy. A lot of times we don't think about the fact that there's, it's going to take energy for, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, all of those things have an energy and a nutrient requirement. And so that's kind of just the basic things that it's going to take to keep that female alive. Then we move down to nutrient reserves that are going to be stored in the bone, the fat, different deep body tissues. That cow has to maintain those in order to maintain her health. As we move on, maintenance of pregnancy. For cattle producers, this is great because once we get that cow pregnant, she does everything she can. Aside from keeping herself alive, she wants to maintain that pregnancy and carry it to full-term gestation. We move down to lactation. She's going to prioritize to go ahead and produce milk to keep the calf that she has at her side alive. Then next is body condition score. Body condition score is just going to be basically that cow's energy bank, so that she has an energy reserve there should she come a time of need where maybe she's not able to take in all of the nutrients that she needs to maintain the 4 things above her. And lastly, and really not ideal, we have reproduction. So this is why we see when those cows get thin, really the first thing to go as far as a cow's nutrient prioritization, or really her priorities in life, is reproduction. For cattle producers, that's not ideal, but when we understand that and we can see kind of the chain of events or the things that lead up to her cutting the reproduction out, we can manage for that in our supplementation program.
I'm Nick Simmons, County Extension Director in Escambia County. So earlier today we talked about some nutritional priorities for our beef females, and so to kind of go along with that, we wanted to talk about that nutritional requirements can kind of be cyclic as you go through her reproductive life. At different times, nutritional requirements are high, and at different times they're low. And so as a demonstration here, we've kind of got our feed bucket to demonstrate supplementation of our beef females and how that can change based on her needs throughout the reproductive cycle. So just in general, she has to have supplementation to maintain her basic needs just to stay alive. That's the most basic, that's the bare minimum, just so she can be in your operation and be productive. We want to add to that, she's also going to have nutritional requirements to add fat, to add muscle, and then we move into some of the reproductive priorities, which ironically are lower on a cow's nutritional priority list. We get into nutritional requirements to maintain pregnancy. Then we move into calving, where she starts lactating. Nutritional requirements go up even further because of all the energy needs for lactation. And so as we see, this bucket can get filled up pretty quick as we get later into the reproductive cycle. So one of the things we can take away from this is at our highest need is when our supplemental cost can be at its highest, as we're trying to make sure we're maintaining body condition score, reproductive efficiency, and that she can turn around and be productive in a subsequent pregnancy. So if we think about it, once we wean that calf off, pregnancy, she's pregnant, that's the time that we can really add body condition score at a lower cost, because it's at that time that nutritional need is at its lowest. So this is a good demonstration of how we can look at nutritional needs throughout the reproductive cycle.